Alrighty. Just got back from the movie. I need to check something real quick. When does FNAF 2 take place? Let's see here. Huh. Would you look at that? We're back, and we're back on the floor because I think that is a good callback to everything that has happened. So, hello everybody, welcome back to another theory. It has been like 7 years since the last one. I am so glad to be back, but why am I making this video? First off, you saw the opening. Yes, FNAF 2 takes place in 1987, but I want to give some thoughts. Because you've read the title of the video, you saw the opening bit. I think the movie was trying to say that FNAF 2 takes place in 1982. And I actually have some food for thought that I want to put out. That I think there's a lot of bits and pieces that have been missed. And now, yes, and I'm going to show it on screen right here. FNAF, the paycheck, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, look, that says November 1987. Clear as day. That's what that says. And we have in FNAF 1 the bite of 87. And I'm going to get on the bite of 87 later. But the conversation around this game taking place on 1987, I don't think that's right. And I think the movie was trying to say that this game takes place in 1982 and that this was the first location that we have. And I think that's right. I think that we have the first location. To first go over like a couple of the conflicts that we actually have with this theory of like 1982 being it, and I think the two biggest ones being the paycheck and the quote of bite of 87. Now I want to get this out of the way first before we start diving into the big lasagna pile that there is, because there's a lot of bits that, you know, if you want a lasagna, you gotta have multiple layers, and there's multiple layers to this theory that we're gonna get into. But first off, this is a headcanon. This is nowhere in any of these games, because I want to talk about the bite of 87 first, because I think that's a crucial thing that I need to pick apart, because without talking about the bite of 87, we can't get into the rest of this theory. So in FNAF 1, we hear from Phone Guy that there was a previous location from the location that we are at, that there was an incident where he goes, I think it was called the bite of 87 or something. That does not happen in FNAF 2. I would be very clear that that does not happen. Nowhere in the game does it happen. Nowhere in, any other source of media does it happen. The only other bite that we physically see on screen outside of the movies, but we're not going to talk about the movies except for this one bit, is the bite of 83, which is a thing that we are also going to talk about. I think that is very important, because if we start talking about the bite of 87, we say that does not happen. Well, okay, then what does happen in FNAF 2? Because this is like that's what the thing that happened was Jeremy gets bitten. What evidence? We don't have anything for that. Besides, the only thing that we have for that is just the fact that the bite of 87 happened, and the fact that we think it's Mangle. That is not canon. Mangle, yes, does play police radio sounds, but if we know anything from the game, they have facial recognition scanners that will scan and call police when there's an intruder nearby. There is something interesting I want to point out. In FNAF 2, in one of the later phone calls, I think it's night 5 or maybe night 6, they talk about the incident that does occur and why the business is shut down, and the inevitable cycle that the restaurant was only open for a couple months. The incident that occurs is someone uses the yellow rabbit suit and does something. By the sound of the phone guy, I'm gonna show it on screen. There is nowhere in this game that says there are multiple kids that were killed. DCI, yes, is true, but I do not think MCI is true, and I think we can use the FNAF movie specifically for this to go that only Charlie was killed. Now, Charlie was killed outside, so here's where the first question lies, is how did Springtrap kill Charlie? or how did William Afton kill Charlie? We know that he comes in, commits the murder, and drives off. So why? Because how they find the body is through the suit, right? They say, hey, someone used one of the yellow rabbit suits. That is confirmed. So what is this? My theory is that he used the yellow rabbit suit so that no one outside could see him, no one on the cameras could see him. Charlie, and then he drove off. Or not Charlie, Charlotte. And he drove off. So, case in point, I think he used the yellow rabbit suit. I think Charlotte was the only one who was murdered in FNAF 2. I think that is kind of clear as day now. I think the minigames example that, the books, everything, it makes sense. So I'm pretty confident. So, but Lando, how does that that doesn't explain anything. But it gets rid of the bite of 87, because I think that's something that we need to take. And now you may be saying, well, why are we retconning the bite of 87? This series doesn't have any retcons. Au contraire. This is now where we get into the FNAF 4 part of this theory that I think is really fascinating. In FNAF 4, we assume that we are playing as the crying child. Some people say we play as Michael. Some people are saying that we play as just some random kid, because in the most recent Tales of the Pizzaplex books, I'm pretty sure, or maybe the ones after that, we learned that William Afton is using gas experiments on kids in FNAF 4 to make them see illusions. If that is a confirmed retcon, which I don't believe, and here's the big reason why. In Sister, you have the vents on the walls in FNAF 4. Then you have the gas canisters in Sister Location, because we know Sister Location is connected to the FNAF 4 house. Here's the problem. Those gas canisters are helium tanks. Who also uses helium tanks consistently? Baby, because Baby puts balloons off her fingertips. That's the gas theory was not there all along, so this was a retcon. That was not there all along. If you are saying that this was there all along, I'm sorry, that's not true, because then here's another thing that I want to point out, and that's the Twisted Ones. I think the Twisted Ones is one of the most influential pieces of media for this franchise. Before, you had sound illusion discs, and we know that sound illusion discs were canon because you look at Nightmare's body, it being clear. Then you also have its the audio thing when you die to him, and then you also have the poster in Ultimate Custom Night in the left hallway. You also have the mound in Midnight Motorist. I want to use Midnight Motorist real quick, because I think Midnight Motorist is one of the most jarring examples of why I think this game has to take place in 1982 and not 1987. If Midnight Motorist is William coming home, that means Crying Child is still alive. Crying Child has not died yet. That would also mean that Michael is still okay and not going through whatever business because Crying Child was bitten. Which would mean, if that is the case, there is no way that in 1987, FNAF 2 could have happened, because he would kill Charlie outside of that building, because that is a confirmed fact. We watch it because we watch as unless you say it's Fredbear's, but I think this movie is trying to say, hey, because Charlotte possessed the puppet, and the puppet was only in the FNAF 2 location, which is what I think this movie is trying to tell you. The case in point, you start seeing, okay, yeah, sure, let's go with that theory. So he's driving home after doing that. What do we see? We see that mound. Some say that's Susie's dog. That could have been an animatronic. Probably an animatronic that rose up and came to get... But we're not going to talk about that part. So that has to happen before 1983, because the Crying Child is still alive. So that means William is there, takes place before 1982, because this is after the events of Charlie. FNAF 4, let's continue with it. There are two characters that I think are very confusing. If the puppet, its first appearance was in 1987, how is Night Marion a character? How is Night Marion a character? How is Mangle a character? How is Nightmare Mangle a character? But those characters are canon. Those characters are... Ultimate Custom Night says they are. Security Breach says they are. There's plushes of them. There's plushes of Night Marion. Nightmare existing in FNAF 4, if that game takes place in 1983, makes no sense. How can some child have a nightmare of a puppet, whether you believe it's the crying child or some random kid? How is that possible? How is it possible that a kid who has never seen this animatronic, this thing before, have nightmares of it, and he wouldn't have been able to see it and for another 4 years? Makes you think. And now you might be saying, okay, well, the Halloween nights aren't canon, but then still, how does Nightmare affect William when he's in purgatory? Because that creature that he made, whether it was sound illusion discs or gas or whatever it may be, haunted someone, therefore it was haunting him. Which means FNAF 2 has to be the original location. Now, you might be asking, okay, Lando, if that is all true, and if everything you were saying, how is Fredbear's open? They say Fredbear's is closed and we couldn't get a hold of the owner in FNAF 2. What if I told you that, yes, and I'm going to bring this other thing, Fazbear Entertainment wasn't founded until 1983. We also know in Secret of the Mimic that they were designing the franchise locations. What if the franchise locations were set to open in 1983 and 1982 was the test run, but Fredbear's was a sister location directly connected to the first Freddy's, which is FNAF 2, and that's why in FNAF 3, I'm gonna put the phone call right here, we hear them talk about the sister location with the spring logs. And that's why we see Fredbear's in FNAF 3, because it was the sister location to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Which would mean, after the biting of the crying child, that sister location would close down. With all the evidence, case in point. Secret of the Mimic happens. Henry and William go off, they use Edwin's stuff to go design the franchise locations. Fredbear's is booming, it's going great. They open their first Freddy's with the design. And also, if we're going to talk about Edwin, why does, Toy Freddy, which is Mangle, and Toy Chica look very different than the designs that Fiona and Edwin had for Foxy? To avoid copyright, because they didn't own those characters yet. They didn't own those characters. Until Fazbear was made, and they could then use those characters, get a copyright for those characters, once Edwin was out of the picture, they changed the designs. Chica had a completely design change. Looks nothing like Fiona's design because it's a more slimmer look. It's a more, I don't want to use the word mature, but it kind of is. Much more round and more country girl. Now she's more city, kind of. But then Foxy, I think, is the biggest example, is completely different colors, served a different purpose. Now, still had a pirate little area, but they repurposed Foxy. Foxy looked different. It was a different character entirely, because they didn't own the copyright for that character yet until Fazbear Entertainment would be later founded in 1983, which then, boomed everything else, and they would then get the copyright for Foxy and Chica in 1983. So, then from there, the franchise's locations open up. You can still have the Bite of 87 happen in 1987 if you want to say that it just happened at a Freddy's location, which then would close them all down, which would still let 1993 work. If that was the event that caused every Freddy's location to shut down, which then would still allow you to have FNAF 3 happen in 2023. Or it can happen in 2022, 2023. Okay, sister location. I think that's another great example of why this game takes place in 1982. If Circus Baby's Pizza World would still also be a sister location, if Baby's Pizza World would open after FNAF 1. Why do I say that? Why do I say that it happens after FNAF 1? When the Bite of 87 happens, and every Freddy's location closes down because the bite happens, and the dead kids incident happened, William's got to find a way to make money. Henry's out of the game. His daughter died. He's out of the game. William makes Circus Baby's Pizza World. It's a massive hit. He has the sister location to continue killing kids and continuing to build his empire. Henry's out of the picture. When Henry goes out of the picture because he doesn't want to continue after he knows what William did to those 5 kids, he sends Baby and offs him off. Starts making sense. And then we have an adult, more mature Michael at this point, who's not a kid anymore, goes down to his father's workshop, and ta-da, his brother's room was being spied on. His brother's room had kids in there being experimented on. Whether you want to believe gas or sound illusion discs, your choice. I think you use the book. You have to use the media that was being released at the time to put the pieces together. Because also at the end of Twisted Ones, we see that FNAF 2 is an old, decrepit location that was opened way before Circus Baby's Pizza World, because we see Circus Baby's Pizza World after the fact. And because those games and those pieces of media were releasing at the same time, you have to take those bits and pieces in for an account. You have to. And so, when you do, you start seeing this timeline form of FNAF 2 was the first. Then, Circus Baby's Pizza World was much later, because we see at the end of Twisted Ones the decrepit FNAF 2 location. And then we see Circus Baby's Pizza World open later. And we see that's what William was trying to do, gain eternity, which he technically succeeds by going to purgatory after we burn him in FNAF 6 in Pizza Sim. So I've rambled. Let's go back. Let's backtrack. Let's do closing thoughts. So, FNAF 2 takes place in 1982. The puppet wouldn't exist if it was in 87. Mangle would not exist if it was in 87 because Mangle was in FNAF 4. Toy Chica exists in FNAF 4 in 1983 when Toy Chica shouldn't even exist. We have the copyright issue and the lensing issue of Foxy and Chica. We have in the redesigns of them, we have the Bite of 87 just not happening in that location at all. We have the Spring Bonnie suit being used at the FNAF 2 location. You still see the murderer using the Spring Bonnie suit in FNAF 2 that we hear in the phone call, and then we have Midnight Motorist of that after fact with the crying child still being alive. None of that would have been able to happen in 1987. Do I think Scott retconned the 87 date? Oh, absolutely. I think there's been a lot of things retconned in this series that we still hold true to our hearts. I know I still do. And I think a massive thing that we need to kind of just as a theory community is just listen to other people's theories. There's evidence for almost anything. Like if there is something you truly believe in this franchise, you can probably find it. You can probably put the pieces together and give yourself an answer. I mean, that's what I just did. I was able to find bits and pieces. Now, I'm sure there's bits and pieces that also counter-argument this, because I'm using, the novel trilogy and a little bit of the movie, but mostly the old games. And there's, we even got retcon that the first 4 games were games within the franchise. Now, whether that be the actual games that we're playing or that just be the stories, I don't know. But that was also retcon. And at the end of the day, no theory's right. We don't have the ultimate guidebook to almost everything. And when we did get that, what in the world is Chica's Party World? That doesn't make any sense. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I would love to continue making theories. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this theory. And a lot of pushback, but I would love to hear your constructive criticism because I think we could make 82 work. I think 82 can work. I would love to hear why you think it's still 87, and why that FNAF 2 was not the precursor. And I mean, pull from anywhere. Pull from the books, pull from the games itself, pull from the movie. I'm all ears. So I hope y'all enjoyed. It's been fun remaking these videos again for y'all. And I hope y'all enjoyed. So yeah, bye.